Looks like it's just about 8 o'clock. Call to order. Can I have a vote to approve the meeting agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve the meeting agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, the first action item, design task order for Upper Broad Run Interceptor Manhole Base Rehabilitation.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and the members of the committee. My name is Amulya Podel, Senior
Turn on
Project
your
Manager
mic.
with the Capital Programs Group. I'm here today to seek your approval on the design task order for Upper Broad Run Interceptor Manhole Improvement Project. I want to begin with the project
Do you have your
location.
mic on?
So I want to begin with the project location. The segment of sewer we're considering for this project is located on the south side of our central system. As you see it here, this here is Elk Lake Pump Station, which receives flow from most of South Riding area. And the force main from Elk Lake Pump Station discharges into a vault that's located at the intersection of Route 50 and Loudoun County Parkway. The exhibit in the bottom here is a more dialed in view of the project area. So this kind of lagging here, but this here is force main that's coming from Elk Lake Pump Station, which discharges into a vault. Like I said, at the intersection of Route 50 and Loudoun County Parkway. From that vault, the sewer runs approximately 2 miles until where it's kind of hidden behind the team's screen there, but it runs into, so it discharges into a larger interceptor, 60-inch interceptor at this point. So in this 2 miles of run, okay. So in this approximately 2 mile stretch of sewer, there are 24 manholes. This section of sewer was installed in 1995. And like I said, it's a major interceptor for us that it picks up most part of South Riding. Elk Lake Pump Station alone discharges approximately 1.5 million gallons per day of flow into the sewer. And one more thing I want to, and I'll be talking about it on the future slides, is all of the pipe and manhole in this section. These are precast manholes and pipes, and they are lined with PVC liners from inside. And I'll be talking more about that in the next slides here. Yeah, so it starts with 30 inch and at some point transitions to 36 inch. So a little bit of background on the project here. So our asset management team and operation and maintenance, we periodically review, do condition assessment of our linear assets. When it comes to gravity sewers, primarily we do the condition assessment of our sewer by running CCTV camera through the pipes. And manholes, we either use a drop-in camera or do visual inspection from above the ground. Our operation and maintenance staff have been tracking some deterioration on the manholes in this segment of the sewer. In 2019, we determined that the deteriorations have risen to a level where it was a concern about proper operation in the future. To the right, there are some pictures that show these deterioration on the manholes. The first set of pictures here. So this is where, as you can see, corroded vents, frames, and covers. The next set of pictures here show that the benches and the channels at the bottom of the manholes, they either do not exist or they're not structurally sound to function the way they were designed. And the last set of pictures here is, if you remember the first slide, I talked about lined manholes. These are proprietary product, T-lock, we call them T-lock liners. So they have significantly deteriorated. So they have started to like peel off. They in several of the manholes, they do not properly bond to the concrete. And then, like you see, the seams are tearing apart. So a lot of issues in these manholes when it comes to the liner. In 2021, we reached out to the manufacturer of the liner, and we brought in a inspector that they recommended to inspect these manholes. We also involved our BOA consultant to further evaluate these conditions and provide us a recommendation on improvement alternatives. The study provided a recommended that we need to either replace or they considered several different factors and then recommended us either replacing or rehabilitating these manholes. So internally, we at Loudon Water, while we've done some manhole improvement work, we have not done it in this scale before. So we reached out to other peer utilities around. Unfortunately, we couldn't find utilities around here that had T-lock lined manholes in their system. So we actually, through some of our consultants, we reached out, and these were predominantly used in the West Coast, apparently, at the time. So through some of our other consultants, we were able to talk to utilities in West Coast. We were also able to talk to a contractor who did work in a similar environment in North Carolina. So based on those discussions, and then considering that the local contractors have very limited or no experience in dealing with this kind of manholes, we had a little bit of concern about potential bid environment. And most importantly, the evaluation of the life cycle cost analysis between replacing and rehabilitating these manholes. We decided to move forward with replacing all of these manholes in this section.
South Riding was being built. Who did the installation? You know, just some history about this particular force main. It was built what in the 1980 timeframe, 1985.
I don't believe it's quite that old. I think the force main itself was constructed in the 90s. At the time, South Riding was really coming into development,
Yeah.
and as well as this gravity segment.
And it was built by the developer or?
By the developer.
Of course, we did our inspections and all of that, so no questions there. So are we getting any leakage from outside water into our system through these at this time?
No, we have not noticed that. It's kind of corroding from inside out.
Yes. That hasn't happened, and of course, we don't want that to happen.
Correct.
Yes. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to move faster with these
absolutely.
manholes.
And I
When I
think
see
that
corrosion like this, it concerns me. So, yeah.
correct. And I think a principal concern is, the slumping of the concrete and the potential for a collapse in a major SSO within this sewer.
I just wanted a little bit of background. And thank you very much for the details.
Yeah, I have one question. You may have already covered it, and perhaps I missed it. What's the number of manholes we're talking about?
So
replacing?
one larger vault at the intersection of Loudoun County Parkway and Route 50, and then 24 downstream manholes.
Okay.
If I see it right, you're gonna have to bypass separately as you go through each manhole, because you're gonna have to bypass them.
Yes,
Okay.
so over the construction, this is a major interceptor for us, so we need to come up with a bypass. It will be a quite an extended bypass operation here, but we need to keep this interceptor active in operation. So yeah, this project will require an extended.
How would they do it? At each individually, or would they do a stretch? I'm just curious.
So my experience working on something like this is depending on how the manholes are, they may elect to kind of bypass a couple of manholes at a time and get 2 or 3 manholes done. So it's going to be more what we will look into during the design.
It's kind of dependent on, I don't know if you can go back to the map as well, but we've actually partnered with DC Water where they've done some rehabilitation on the Potomac Interceptor here in Loudoun County. And you know, they were in some sections near the 1757 golf course and where they've now built some data centers, but it was open land when they had the space to lay all the pipe on the ground, you know, for the entire
Oh.
run that they were rehabilitating. In that case, you know, they really bypassed the entire run. Here, because of cross streets and so forth, I think that will be determined during design, but we'll probably try to bypass sections at a time.
That's what I think will happen on this
You
one.
have the one at Route 50.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the map, but okay,
Mhm.
yeah.
You and I talked about, what is this line, that TikTok? What's it called?
T-lock.
E-lock.
T-lock. Yeah, it's
I found that was kind of fascinating that they formed the plastic inner pipe first and then they put the concrete around the outside.
Hmm.
Which
Yeah.
I found kind of interesting.
It is. It's sort of, you can see it mostly in these bottom pictures here. If you can imagine like a thin sheet of PVC material and it has some T-shaped ribs at the back of it. So they form this sheet into a cylinder and then they cast the structure, the pipe around it.
Yeah, we stopped this. The manufacturer actually ceased operation during COVID, but we use another similar product. It's made by a company called Agru, and the product name is Sure Grip. But it's same theory. So when they build these manholes at the plant, they basically put the liner and then cast the manhole. I think this one's not working.
Any other questions?
Not now. Let's let him go on with this presentation.
What's that?
Let's let him go on with this presentation.
Oh, good. Oh, I didn't.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
I interrupted it with just when we were doing the,
So with this project, once again, so here is where the Elk Lake pump station forcemen come and discharge into this vault. So back in 1995, when we designed this sewer, the plan at the time was we were going to bring another force main from the east. So this manhole is sized larger, but then that plan got abandoned. And now we do not need this big of a vault. This vault is also deteriorated. So with this project, we intend to remove the vault and replace it with an appropriately sized manhole. And then all these 24 manhole highlighted with red line here in the exhibit here, we will be replacing all those manholes. In the process, we will add manhole vents in this section of sewer, which will bring the system to our current standard. So the scope in this project is to provide the design, permitting, and bid phase services associated with doing this work. So we selected Wallace Montgomery to provide the design phase services on this project. Wallace Montgomery recently provided sewer design services for East Beach sewer relocation project that the board approved for construction in the last meeting. We were satisfied with their work. Some of the activities involved in this project, in this task order, would be broadly into 4 categories here: project management, design services, permitting, and bid phase services. Project management is typical our progress meetings, coordination meetings with inside and outside stakeholders, preparation of project execution plans, risk registers, permit registers, and things like that. In terms of design, the project will require topographic survey and utility location around the manholes. The sewer is in some locations near environmentally sensitive area, and then we also cross waters of the United States. So the project will require wetland delineation. And then it's like I said, it's an extended bypass operation in this project. So all this design ultimately will produce a set of drawings and specifications that we plan to use to bid and construct the project. The consultant will also prepare construction cost estimate for the project. In terms of permitting, like I said, because we will cross waters of the United States, we have to go with Army Corps permitting. In the sewer project typically will also require DEQ permitting. with VDOT, all of the manholes are actually in the easement, but we access those easements through VDOT roadways. So it's kind of minimal, but we still need coordination and permitting from VDOT. And anytime we have excavation, these linear projects have to go through grading permit with the Loudoun County. And again, bid freight services is also included in this task order. Okay, on to the next slide here. So we negotiated with Wallace Montgomery, and here is the broad estimate of a fee that we've negotiated with them. This happens to be a project where we do not have a direct experience in the past, but when we analyze their fees, and then when we compare like elements of this design with other similar projects that we've done in the past, we found these this fee proposal to be acceptable to us. And the total design fee that we've negotiated with Wallace Montgomery is $170,000, $400 and $400. And I want to point out of that, here, survey and utility designation will be performed by a sub-consultant to Wallace Montgomery. And I also want to point out that this design fee of $170,400 represents approximately 4% of the construction cost estimate that was developed during the study phase.
And this is a professional services contract, so it's an hourly billing.
Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, the Wallace Montgomery is one of our BOA civil
One of the three,
consultants.
Just, I have one question. That I don't know if this is considered relatively new, but this main doesn't seem like it's been in long enough for the manholes to deteriorate that much. Is this abnormal, or is this a normal life?
It is. That is one of the reason. So generally, these manholes design life is expected to be 50 years. In this case, we started noticing these defects like in actually close to 25 years. So we did, once we started noticing this defect, we were primarily this deterioration is caused by hydrogen sulfide gas in the manhole. In this case, when we did the testing for hydrogen sulfide, they were not disproportionately high. So it is a combination of hydrogen sulfide and also quality of the manholes. I think I want to add to that. So we also we evaluated the condition of all the pipes in the system. They are also lined with the same product, but produced by a different manufacturer. And the pipes are in good shape, so they are not of concern at this time. Manholes is where I think it's a combination of hydrogen sulfide gas and quality of the manhole is what we concluded resulted in this deterioration. Any question on this slide here? Okay, so in terms of schedule for the project, once we get approval from the board, we plan to immediately move into the design phase. We anticipate this to be about a year's design, and we will come back to the board again to seek approval on the construction phase of the project. We anticipate the construction to be from anywhere from 10 to 12 months. So the goal here is to complete construction by second quarter of 2025. Here's a snapshot from the CIP. This project is included in our 10-year CIP plan. It's tracked under West 39 project. CIP, the project is budgeted for 4.68 millions spread out over the next couple of years. So it is in our 10-year CIP project plan. And that actually is my last slide before I move to the motion. So if anybody have any questions.
Just, 4.5 million takes my breath away. But we have an aging system, and there's going to be more of these, and we've planned for them in the CIP. So, but still, 4.5 million is a lot of money.
Yeah, just a little bit of clarification on that is this estimate is based on what we call AACE, American Advancement of Association for Cost Estimating. So the level 4 estimate for planning level, which has it's -20 to +50%. So it may be slightly on the higher estimate, but this was we did do pretty elaborate computation to come up with these numbers during the study phase.
Yeah, the manufacturer of the manholes that have been deteriorating rather quickly, did they, were there products used elsewhere within our system? Do we have any?
So there are a few that's not included here, but those are not exhibiting any detail. So, but those are like on the very first slide, I was trying to show you this 36-inch manhole. It discharges into the larger interceptor that's 60-inch. Now there we haven't noticed defects like this. So it's kind of on that run along Loudoun County Parkway is where we've noticed the defect, severe defect.
Okay, but it's the same manufacturer, but you're saying you're not seeing the severity of defects that are occurring?
No.
Okay.
Nor in the pipes. The pipes are similar construction, but we're not seeing any of that with the curved line, the lining.
This was used in the system for a short time period and then phased out as a standard. So in our engineering standards, we have an approved manufacturers list. And I just wanted to kind of mention, staff runs in an internal committee, our approved materials committee, or product review committee is what we call it. And so we're constantly bringing in our inspection staff, O&M, engineering, and looking at what we're seeing in the field and then adjusting the standards accordingly. So for quite some time now, this T-lock has been off the list, and we now have a different set of standards for lining.
No further question. I have the motion in front of you for your consideration.
Now can we have,
I'd be happy to make the motion.
yes, please.
I'll go ahead and read the motion. I move that the board approve a design task order for the Upper Broad Run Interceptor manhole improvement project to Wallace Montgomery for an estimated cost of $170,400 with the approximate 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized of $179,000. Additional costs will be required to board approval. And this should go on consent agenda.
Yes. Can we have a vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's it.
A second.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
next one is approval of design task order.
Thank you.
Equinix, I think is the pronunciation, property reclaimed water main.
Good morning, Chairman, and good morning, CIP Board. This is the approval of design task order for Equinix property reclaimed water connection project. So the project is located fairly close from where we are right now, about 1.5 miles south of the Loudoun Water Campus. The smaller insert shows where the project location is in relation to Loudoun Water Campus. If we zoom in closer to the project location, you'll note that this is an Equinix property and this is an Equinix property. So we're connecting a pipe from this 12-inch to this 16-inch and going across the Loudoun County Parkway, Digital Realty property, and crossing another road, Filigree Court. So for the project background, in 2022, I believe Hazen and Sawyer conducted a reclaimed water system evaluation. In that, they provided a hydraulic modeling of the reclaimed water system, and that identified the need for improvement to serve current and future customers' pressure needs, pressure demands. This pipe connection, this Equinix property pipe connection, is a critical component of the overall reclaimed water system improvement plan. With this connection, it will reinforce the reclaimed water system by increasing system reliability, redundancy, and also increase the pressure. So project scope of work, we've retained the service of Dewberry engineers to do the design for this. It's approximately 1,000 linear feet of ductile iron pipe, and crossing the two roads, Loudoun County Parkway, which is a fairly busy road, and the Filigree Court, these will be crossed with via trenchless crossings. So going more detail into the scope of work for Dewberry, again, it's divided into 4 broad categories: project management, including project meeting for the duration of the project. Design services includes topographic survey, utility locating and mapping. Because we're crossing 2 VDOT roads, they require geotechnical investigation, especially because we're doing trenchless crossings. In that, there is a little bit of pond there, wetland. So the Dewberry would need to do wetland delineation in there, and that would trigger permitting, environmental permitting as well. And then they would prepare the construction drawings and specs and easement preparations in that, and also includes some cost estimating. In terms of permitting, besides the environmental permitting, they will also have to go through VDOT permitting and Loudoun County permits. And this also includes the bid phase services. So for the fee breakdown, the total design fee for Dewberry is $149,000. We have negotiated the fee with Dewberry, and based on these items broken down into these tasks, we have analyzed these by comparing to recent similar linear projects, and based on these tasks, these fees are acceptable. I wanted to point out that the geotechnical investigation and utility locating will be provided by a subconsultants, ECS and AccuMark.
What percent of construction costs pretty high?
The construction cost estimate is the rough order of magnitude that we have estimated for the CIP plan sheet. And I was comparing this to other recent projects, the construction cost estimate versus the design estimate. And it comes around 10, 12%. So we thought that might be acceptable.
In other words, on the previous presentation, the committee just saw, we had done a pretty extensive study of the manhole base evaluation and the alternatives for the rehabilitation. And that involved a pretty detailed cost estimating effort. And I think what Jigme's saying here is we've done some, rough order of magnitude cost estimating for the construction of this particular project for purposes of the CIP plan. So the percentage basis there may not be quite as accurate as what we saw on the previous project. But as we've prepared for this, bringing this item forward to the committee, Jigme did go through a pretty exhaustive comparison of this design task fee with several other similar linear projects that we've done. We have a lot of projects going in the JLMA right now.
Mm-hmm.
We had the Maple Avenue water main project that you guys approved recently. And so line by line of what's shown in this task breakdown, that's where he went through and compared with, what did we see for project management costs on, this linear project, and that's where we, ensure that these fees are in line with expectations.
The on your earlier slide with the layout of the all the reclaimed water plumbing, pipe, and you have the arrow to point where the project is. We put in a lot of this kind of pipe. We should have a pretty good handle on what it's going to cost. Is that correct? And we think 1.3 million is what, including the engineering, is about what it's going to cost.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just to add to that design, one thing we've experienced is the size of the project, the scale matters. Like this one is, if this was a longer run, then the design fee would not proportionally increase in the same rate. So I think the size of the project also contributed to the design percentage to be a little bit on the higher end compared to the other project that I presented.
Yeah, there's a base overhead to do any design project.
Right. I think that's an important point. And, you know, you were hitting on one additional factor I'd like to highlight to the committee is that this really is a critical connection and looping of this reclaim system. As you can see, it's, you know, the reclaim system has grown rapidly in the last decade plus, and we completed a pretty significant looping of the southern portion of the system in about 2015, 2016 roughly. And you know, the system is certainly in need of this interconnection in that southern loop. As the modeling showed, you know, we have a lot of data centers in this particular core of the system, and, you know, we don't want to see pressures drop there.
It's two of our large users right there.
Presume there's a huge growth expectation with the data centers.
Continued infill, this is definitely sort of the core pocket that, you know, everything grew from the very beginning. So that's another factor. Right near this interconnection point is where most of the oldest data centers exist. And so they're the bigger consumers, less efficient systems. And that's definitely factoring in here as well.
East, right there.
That piece of property is vacant, right, that you're cutting?
Mhm.
Have you gotten any inquiries about a data center on that piece of property?
We do. So through our land development group, we've been coordinating, and we do expect that property will develop just a few years down the road. But we certainly wanted to be able to get in here with this project because of the more pressing drivers of wanting to maintain adequate pressures in the system and resilience in the system. But being able to do this now and have adequate space to do these trenchless crossings and the sending and receiving pits for the jack and bore, it's advantageous to do this now while the parcel is still vacant.
You don't see any issues with easement?
I don't think so. I think
We don't. We do have easements on the Equinix properties. And so we have land development has been coordinating with the Digital Realty, and they're willing to provide easement.
And they're one of our customers already for reclaimed water.
Yep.
Yeah. Pretty good.
Thank you for the questions.
Helps create the picture.
So project schedule, the design will run for about a year. And we expect the construction to complete second quarter of 2025. This is a CIP project snapshot. Project is Rec 10. And again, the project driver is to reinforce a reclaimed water distribution system. And the 10-year CIP budget has $1.35 million for design and construction. With that, this is my last slide before.
No,
Motion.
just one more slide, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the recommended motion.
You want? Yeah, here you go. Oh, you want to read it from there?
I move the board approve a design task order for the Equinox Property Reclaimed Water Project to Dewberry for an estimated cost of $149,000 with an approximate 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized budget of $157,000. Additional costs will require board approval.
And put this on the consent agenda forward.
Second.
Vote, say aye.
Aye.
Next item, capital construction report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This morning I'll be presenting co-presenting the capital construction report for the first quarter of 2023. On the agenda, we have status snapshots of the Beaver Dam Reservoir Park project, as well as the Selma booster pump upgrades and the reclaimed water pump station upgrades at Broad Run, followed by the sort of now customary Broad Run expansion project update, and a quick snapshot of the overall status report for the quarter. First project on the list is our Beaver Dam Reservoir Park project. which is being built in partnership with Nova Parks. The contractor for that Meridian was awarded the project in July. He received NTP in October, and as we approach the 8th month in construction here, we are roughly over 30% complete for this project. Some of the completed work includes ENS controls, rough clearing, grading of the site, and some concrete foundation work, as well as site utilities, which have already been started. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the remaining scope from previous presentations, so I'll.
Is the reservoir starting to refill?
Not quite yet, no.
quite yet.
Our public-facing target for the reservoir fill is Q3 of this year. So we cut ourselves a little bit of slack from the contractually allowed time for the contractor. We are trending a little bit behind schedule due to some unforeseen subsurface conditions that we encountered after we drained the reservoir. But we still plan to meet that Q3 target for the overall refill of the reservoir.
We'll try and order some rain for late in Q3.
Well, early summer is also known to be a little wet, right? So we
It
should.
has been dry, and we've been watching this closely, and even with our water operations staff, we've been, trying to kind of cheat this a little bit, I'll say, like we don't necessarily need to leave the valve wide open, and we can, be efficient about this. So
Yep.
I just wanted to assure you we're looking at it from that angle as well, so that we can.
The Eagles are happy with you for having it lower so they can, it's like, get, shooting fish in a barrel.
There you go.
Fun to watch them.
So some of the project highlights, if you were to approach the project from the NRPA complex adjacent to the site, you'd see that the base pavement for Water Vista Drive is laid down. You'd be able to see the full extent of clearing sort of on the picture to the left. The picture in the middle sort of represents the approach from Water Vista Drive into the site. So you see the extent of pavement there. And last picture shows, I think that's where the boat rental facilities are located. I was there yesterday, and there's a little more development than what's shown in the picture now in terms of the structural there, but you sort of also see the extent of the drain in the background there for the reservoir. Like I mentioned, there's some good foundation and abutment progress for the shore side work along the reservoir shore, and some of the footers and support columns for the rest of the structures are also underway. And I think that's all I have on Reservoir Park, so I'll hand it over to Rick here for the rest of the work.
Thank you.
All right. Good morning. So moving on to the Selma booster pump upgrade. So the purpose of this project was to improve the low flow pumping conditions at the Selma water treatment facility. And we're well into construction on this project. We've spent a little bit more than half of the contract value. And most recently, the contractor has completed the demolition of the existing pump and VFD. And then we've taken delivery of the new booster pumps that are going to go in its place. And we've placed the concrete for the new equipment pads as well through the end of the first quarter. And then up for the next quarter, or the next area of work here is just to set the new VFDs and pumps and conduct the commissioning and then close out. And so this project should wrap up this year. It's scheduled to be finished in June of this year. Okay. And then the next project, small project I'll feature here is the Broad Run Reclaimed Water Pump Station upgrade. So this project was simply to expand the capacity of our reclaimed pump station. We're just under construction on this project. It was awarded late last year to American Contracting and Environmental Services. And our expenditures also kind of tell you that we're just into construction. We've completed bonds and insurance and replaced a couple of check valves in the pump station. And then the bulk of the work is up and coming as we look forward with the installation of pumps and VFDs, the piping and the HVAC improvements, and then also commissioning and closeout. And the goal for this project is to wrap it up by August of 2024. And another goal is just to have these facilities online for the warm months in 2024. So say by June or so, we would like to have these facilities online and in operation for reclaimed water service. Any questions about this project? All right, so I'm going to move on to the Broad Run expansion. So this project, of course, is to expand the treatment capacity from 10 to 15 million gallons per day. And we've been under construction for several years now. The original contract value is 75.9 million, and our change order total has just gone up a little bit through this quarter. We had one change order executed, and so we're up to 1.9 million in change orders with a $77.8 million revised contract value. The expenditures through the end of the first quarter were at 77% spent. We've expended 60 million of the contract value. And then just looking at the time there, our final completion is still scheduled for August of 2024. And we are 66% elapsed on time through the end of the first quarter. And then just our little index that compares earned versus planned value, we're still tracking pretty well here with our expenditures planned versus earned. All right. And then I also don't want to forget that along with the contractor working hard, our engineering firm, Hazen, is working hard as well, providing CA services. And so just a couple of quick stats on that. We've seen Hazen review and about 1,900 submittals so far on the project. And then they've also answered 450 requests for clarification among all the other support services that they do. But in terms of quantities, those stand out the most so far. So Hazen's providing good service to us as well as alongside the contractor who's continuing to construct the project. Okay, and then moving on to our site plan graphic here. So this is the pre-construction view, just showing the buildings that are involved in the construction that are either upgraded or expanded. And then I'll move on to the first quarter view here. So what we see here is that through the end of the first quarter, we've picked up an additional area of construction. So previously this one was red, and so construction has started here. We've also added some testing and commissioning over at the chemical building. Previously this area was just blue last quarter. And then also over here at the influent pump station, we have reached completion of that work with the exception of some HVAC controls that will be wrapping up here next month. And then same thing over at the equalization area. We've completed the tank. We are just wrapping up some loose ends here at the equalization vault, which supports the tank. And that is also HVAC control work, as well as just a little bit of electrical work. So construction is continuing to progress, as we move through, and looking ahead to next quarter, we should see some more. Probably the most prominent color that will pop up is you'll see some more yellows next quarter. Hopefully there'll be another green. Certainly the HVAC controls work here and that equalization should be finished. And then we also might see some work commencing at some of these areas that have yet to start as well. And then also, I don't want to forget one very important thing, and that is yard piping. So I did not put these spaghetti looking yard piping on this particular graphic. I just decided to put an annotation here, but we have completed about 16,000 feet of mostly large diameter yard piping as well. So that's all in the ground and complete on the project. Okay, so moving ahead, typically I have pictures with annotations that kind of feature the progress on different parts of the work. But today I actually have a couple time-lapse videos to share with you. So the first one is for the equalization facilities. And so it's going to show kind of the start of construction up through the end of the quarter. And so I'm going to try to kind of narrate the, construction, do the play-by-play as it goes through. The action is pretty fast, so relax your eyes and don't focus. Try to focus on it because it could make you a little bit queasy. So we don't want that. So let's go here and play the first time lapse. So again, this is the new equalization. So it's the new tank and vault. And here we go. Not wanting to start here. Oh, I think I might need you to click that. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So the contractor is mobilizing here. They're bringing their materials and equipment out, starting to excavate for some of the underground work and the foundation work. You just saw the tank foundation and ballast slab going in. And so you're going to start to see things come up vertically. You saw the shell or the spine of the tank, and then all the scaffolding kind of come up on the tank, which supports the dome construction. And I don't want to leave out the vault is actively going on as well, just to the left. And so now you see the dome construction, the pouring of the concrete there on the dome, and you can see the vault over there to the left coming up out of the ground as well. And then very quickly, you'll see tensioning wire going around the tank and the shotcrete going on the walls. And now you see the painting just happened very quickly there. So the tank is painted. The contractor is continuing to remove all that scaffolding from the inside, grade on the outside, continue to work inside the vault over on the left side as well. And then we're kind of winding down here with this time lapse. It'll just show the sort of the look at the vault and the tank there through the end of March. So it's 10 million gallons. It's 240 feet in diameter. It's 30 some feet high. Now it depends on whether you're at the edge of the wall or in the middle of the dome, but it's, give or take 30 feet high, and thousands of yards of concrete were placed there to form that tank.
Is there a steel shell that supports the roof before the shotcrete goes on?
No,
What-
not on the dome, but on the walls, there's a steel diaphragm or a steel
Right.
backbone that goes around the walls. And then there's shotcrete on the inside and the outside.
And the steel dome is what supports the roof when you're putting the roof on.
It partially supports the dome. And so just the walls on the tank, they're at the bottom 20 inches thick, at the top about 6 inches thick. So they're tapered as they go. Yeah. It's old technology in a new package. All right. So I'm going to back up here if I can. Okay, so the second time lapse, it's a little bit longer. The second one's about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And it features the expansion of the coarse screen and grit building, and then also the expansion of the primary clarifiers. And so we'll go ahead and play that. There we go. Okay, so here's our camera on that work area. And if you go ahead and help me out with getting this one started. All right, so you can see there the contractors mobilizing and setting up their materials and equipment on the left side over at the clarifiers there, and they've taken the fascia off the building to get ready for the expansion. And also I'll say that there's a lot of yard piping and underground work going on during this time as well, as they kind of set up the subsurface conditions so they can start to pour the concrete. And then over on the left, you see concrete poured there. Some of the foundation and walls are starting to come up. And over on the right, you can see that I'm sorry, let's go back. Yeah, go ahead and start from the middle. Yeah. My little, I can't point to certain areas, I'm sorry. But anyway, the concrete continues there over in the screen and grit area. The primary influence splitter structure is kind of up out of the ground over there. Meanwhile, we continue to complete the concrete pouring over at the primary clarifiers. You can see it's kind of closed in now. You can see the wall, the front wall on the left is kind of closed in. And so the work at the clarifiers on the left has turned more to the top slab, pouring the different top slab concrete placements and such. And there were a lot of hatches cast into that top slab. So it's quite a bit of work to get those concrete pours ready to go. So that continues over on the left side, and then on the right side, you can see the screen and grit building expansion is kind of closed in as well, and they're also moving up top as well. The structural concrete for these two areas was mostly wrapped up right at the end of this year, or right at the beginning of January is when we finished up the structural concrete here. You also might have seen a stair tower form there on the left side. It's getting its roofing. And now you see the black waterproofing, and then you'll also see the insulation go up on the primary clarifier building here in a second. And then the precast panels will quickly appear on the primary clarifier building here. There's the insulation, there's the precast panels. And then we'll repeat that treatment over on the screen and grit building. You'll see that black waterproofing layer go up, and then you'll see the insulation, the silvery colored insulation layer go up, and then you'll see the precast panels go up. And this picture is kind of generally where the construction is now. Contractor continues to do, discipline-specific work inside, mechanical, electrical, instrumentation work, HVAC work. That's ongoing kind of inside these new expanded structures. And then also on the exterior, the mason has started putting brick in on the north, the far side of the clarifiers and the west side. So I don't really have that in the picture, but the brickwork is coming back. And so in subsequent or future pictures, I should be able to show you the nice brickwork again, returning to the face of the building. Any other questions about these time lapses? All right. So just continuing on, just some summary information about the project. So we continue to have a good relationship with the contractor. We're able to work with them, use the tools of the contract to communicate back and forth between the parties, our RFIs and shop drawings and notices and such. So that's very positive. The plant also has continued to meet permit throughout construction. That's been a priority of this project, to safeguard the plant's ability to meet permit, and so we've continued to do that thus far. We also have done our best to try to keep the list of construction quality concerns short and have the contractor address those contemporaneously. So continue to work through that. Claims and disputes. So there's no outstanding claims and disputes. We do have some in our court that we're working through, but there's none that we haven't been able to resolve. Some of these take a little bit of time. It does take some time, especially to work through claims for additional contract time. There's quite a bit of analysis that we do with scheduling and our scheduling software to analyze those, but there's no claims and disputes that we haven't been able to work through and settle up with the contractor. As far as completion, we still think the project is several months late, or trending and tracking towards several months late. And then as far as change orders, I mentioned that we did execute one in the first quarter. So we're up to 11 for the project in total. So the change order that we executed in the first quarter, it was just a mixture of various mechanical, electrical, and instrumentation changes. Some of the changes were related to just additional circuits maybe needed for different things that might have been overlooked in the design. it was kind of a mixed bag, but also just in particular in the change order 11 that was executed, there were some contract credits that we were able to delete out. And so it helped to kind of offset the cost of that change order. We had some unit price sort of contingency or allocations built into the contract for things like hazardous waste removal or subsurface utility location. And since the project is kind of up out of the ground at this point, we were able to go ahead and back those out of the contract because we're vertical now with the construction. And so things like subsurface conflicts are sort of a thing of the past on the project. So that's just one example. So
So just one question.
Yeah.
I think my mic's working. The projected 102 days, do the change orders, affect, contribute to that trend?
So not yet. So none of the 11 has contract time in it. The next change order will very likely have some contract time in it to settle a time claim. So we are getting to the point where we're starting to work with the contractor on some time claims, and then also some ways to further optimize the schedule. Perhaps the most complex work remains on this project, which is the membrane work. And so we're currently working with the contractor to optimize the schedule, to improve the durations and sequencing of their activities. And there's some things we're looking at doing on our end with the constraints to relax some constraints to further help alleviate the schedule. So it's kind of, we're in sort of a state of flux, if you will, with the schedule, with trying to kind of come up with the best plan forward to the finish line.
And go ahead.
I'll tell you, having no claims or disputes at this point in the project is pretty impressive.
Well, they're settled. There's none that are outstanding where we just haven't been
Yeah.
able to reach agreement with the contractor. And, in that case, you might need to bring the attorneys, onto the scene, but we haven't needed to do that at this point.
And you may have already answered this, but what are some of the most noteworthy challenges or issues that you've had to deal with the contractor as of late?
As of late or
Mhm.
through the
Yeah, just as of late recently.
Nothing really stands out as a big thorn in our side.
Okay.
I think just keeping the momentum, keeping them staffed up. I mean, I have heard through the grapevine that some of their, staff have taken jobs elsewhere. So I think maybe the biggest thing for the contractor is just, maintaining a staff presence to, keep the project going to the finish line.
Okay. So a lot of the onboarding and transition of activities. Okay.
I'd say that's
Mhm.
probably,
All right. Thank you.
that's fair.
Thanks.
All right. And so this brings me to the near the conclusion of the presentation here. We've got our statistics here for our active construction projects. And so we've got the the time data over on the left here. There we go. It's working. Apologize for that. Okay, so we've got our time data here on the left, and then our money or contract price data over here on the right, including our contingency utilization as a percentage and percent of contract value spent. And these are the 5 active construction projects that are going on right now. So if you have any questions on any of these, Sam and I would be glad to.
24 is going to be a big year.
It sure is. We've got, and I also have the projects that are on deck as well that are up and coming. So
Mhm.
there weren't specifically any projects that dropped off the list in the first quarter, but there are these 4 that are up and coming. So these are 4 projects that were approved by the board in prior quarters, and we are anticipating start dates for these projects to happen in the second quarter. So these projects will be getting going here soon, if not already. And so these are kind of our up and coming list here. Any questions about any of these?
I do.
Yes.
I one's missing, isn't there? Isn't there one that's either upcoming project for the reservoir? The
Reservoir Park?
no,
project?
not the reservoir park, but for the
The-
quarry filling. And
Oh.
yet the, all that underground work that's being done there.
The quarry project?
Yeah.
The Milestone Reservoir
Mhm.
Quarry. I'm gonna let Sam speak to that because he's got the information.
I will gladly admit that we considered putting it in here, but to the extent that it's not sort of gonna start within the next quarter, we sort of opted to, we will be providing an informational update at some point before the project starts, and then you'll probably see it in the next quarter report when it's set to anticipate projects starting in Q3, which is our current estimated notice to proceed date.
Yeah, we recently approved it, so I was looking to see where it was, and it should be at 0 at this point. We're close. But
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so the anticipated NTP for that project is November.
that's another big deal project. That won't be
Sure
done in
is.
24.
Yes. Not quite.
Not quite.
I'm just curious, how many full-time inspectors do you have covering all these projects? Do you have? I'm just curious.
So I think,
It's just approximate.
so on the, I'll go to the Broad Run expansion. So we have 4. Generally, we have 4 inspectors full-time covering that project
Covering
right,
that project.
right now. And I think it's, you could probably assume for the other projects listed, plus or minus 1 inspector per project. Sometimes, with some of these projects, the inspector can cover multiple projects, like maybe you see the 2 smaller projects up here.
Now, the four inspectors, how do they divide the work up? I'm just curious.
So we have really 3 teams. We have 2 linear teams, sort of a north and a south geographic areas, and they cover linear work principally, which the bulk is land development, the new development work. And then these particular linear projects from our capital program. And then we have a vertical team, and each of those teams have roughly, I think, 3 to 4 inspectors, plus or minus. So the team here that covers these vertical projects is in the 3 to 4 total inspector range.
The reason I ask is you do such a damn good job. I'm wondering how many people it's taken to get it done. So that's good.
They're working hard. They're working very hard.
So, Mr. Salt, back to your question there, we, at the expansion project, so we have 2 Hazen inspectors and 2 Loudon Water inspectors. And so they just kind of share the work. The work areas are sort of divided up because we have many, 8, 10 work areas. And so it's just kind of divided up based on the size of the work area and the current load of the inspector to cover all those areas on a daily basis.
Now, do they have specialties? I mean, do some of the inspectors have a structural specialty and others electrical, or it's just general?
I'd say it's more general. I mean, some have maybe a little more experience based on their career tenure than others. And so we try to take that into consideration as we cover the work areas. But there's also some specialty third-party inspections that we've brought out for things like structural and to cover those with some expertise from a separate firm. So.
Yeah, our vertical projects tend to try to leverage sort of the expertise on some of those, mechanical, electrical areas with the consultant. And then we take the lion's share of the burden on the sole burden for the linear work. That's kind of our bread and butter. We, inspect so many land development projects, and that's just right within our wheelhouse. So we're typically not utilizing much consultant support for those projects.
When I was in Fairfax, we didn't have quite the volume of work that you have, but we used to divide it up into specialties. We had a structural inspector, we had electrical inspector, that type of thing. I have to say, we didn't do as good a job as you guys do.
Thank you.
Any other questions or? Very good, very good presentation, appreciate it.
Thank you.
And like I say, you guys do a damn good job. We never did it that good at Fairfax, I can tell you that. You know, well, one other question, you don't get involved with formal partnering, you just, the formal partnering process?
So we have not used formal partnering on the Broad Run expansion project, but I think
Doesn't sound like you need it.
our relationship is as good, if not better, you know, as if we did do it.
Yeah,
So
we used it, but I don't, doesn't seem like you guys need it at all.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning. So here we have the capital spending report through the end of the first quarter through the end of March, and the capital spending was about $14.5 million, about 80% of the projection for that time. The two programs that really are influencing that or continue to be the Broad Run and the finance program. There are some programs that are spending over their projection, and those two are the ones that are kind of currently trending underneath their projection. And the reasons for them are similar as to last month, just a little bit of a delay in Broad Run and then some of the lag in the financing program. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them.
The only question I would have is an obvious one on Potomac Water Supply. What's the deal with that?
The Potomac Water Supply is spending a little bit above the what the projection was. Is that what your question
That's
is?
the one I was asking about.
I'm not sure what the reason why it's spending a little bit above, but I think what you're seeing in there is that program through the end of the year is projected to spend $9 million, and it's projected here through the first quarter to only be $763,000. That is, I think, in part to what Sam was talking about with the Quarry project coming on later in the year. That's when it will really ramp up with the spending.
And I think this possibly speaks to us being pretty efficient with pushing the design to completion. So this, I think, speaks to the schedule of the spending. Maybe Sam, I don't know if you want to add.
Yeah, and just one thing to add is that if you look at any of the independent tasks that we've got going during the design phase and the pre-construction phase of the Quarry project, all of them are really tracking relatively on target. So, you know, like Alton said, I would sort of factor that in by or attribute that to the progress that we've made. We've hit all our delivery targets for the design packages for the Quarry, for instance. It's pretty much proceeding on schedule. So I think that just reflects sort of that pace on the design side. It should sort of taper and even out and align better to projections as we approach construction at the end of the year.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
I guess unless I'm reading wrong, that's the last item on the agenda. Well, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
The motion?
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.